Hi everyone, welcome back. We'll dive straight in where we left off last time. We're building up our plastic shader for our bottle. The next section that we need to work on is the bump mapping. Now, the bump map was one of the two images that we created in in Photoshop in the last stage of the project. Now, we have a couple of options here. We can either use the bump map, or for those of you who did the sort of optional normal mapping section at home, you can use your normal map instead of the bump map. So that is sort of up to you, but pretty much they're set up in a very similar way. So I have my plastic shader selected here, okay, and I'm going to come across to the bump mapping attribute now. Now keep in mind that this is the attribute editor I've got open. You can just double click the shader to get this open. So on the bump mapping input, we'll just click that, and it will ask us for a node type. Now because I'm using a picture that I created in Photoshop, I want to use file just here. And you'll see down here on the work area in the Hypershade that it adds that file in, so it's kind of dumping it here. You can see that it sort of does it in a very messy fashion. So if you ever want to clean this up, what you can do is just come up to the top here, and there's a little button just here called Rearrange Graph, and you can just click that, and it'll sort of just neaten everything up, and then you can press A, and that'll kind of zoom out so you can see the whole graph. Okay, so when we add that bump input, you can see over here in the attributes, it's given us this bump 2D node, and that's what's added in down here. Now it's automatically connected a file node to it where we can load in our picture, but before we do that, we have to decide whether or not we're going to use the bump map that we created, or whether we use the normal map that we created. Okay, so if you're going to use a bump map, you can just leave these settings as they are. If you're going to use a normal map, you need to change the Use As drop down to tangent space normals, like that. Now, whichever one you decide to use, okay, I'm going to use the tangent space normals, but you can leave it at bump and do the exact same thing. When you do that, what you can do is click on this input button just here. Now, just as a side note, this bump depth value, you can adjust that up and down, and that's how strong the bump effect is on the model. All right. So if you set this to 0, it removes the bump, or it hides it. The more you dial the number up, the stronger the result gets. You might need to tweak this to your own preference, okay? But don't make the number too high. Or too low. If you going to a negative number, it will actually flip the bump inside out. So things that are popping out will look like they're popping in, and so on. Okay, so when I've got my Use As value set, what I do is click on the little input button. So now I need to load in my my bump map or my normal map, depending on what I'm going to use. So I click on the little folder, and it'll take me to source images. Now, keep in mind I'm in my bottle project folder just here. And what I want to do is select either the bump map, if you're going to just use the the regular bump map, or you can select the normal map if you've done the optional video. So just grab your normal map or your bump map and hit open, and it'll load in like this. So that's basically, as far as the bump map is concerned, that's basically it. Now, if you want to see the result of that bump map or that normal map, what you can do in your main viewport is if you click the high quality button just here, you'll see the bump map actually appear on the object like this. So now I can see those little bumps, all right? The other way of doing it, which is the way I tend to prefer to do it, is you can go to the renderer menu just here and select Viewport 2.0, and that will actually show the transparency of the plastic as well as the bump map. It's a little bit difficult to see the bump map at the moment, but if you rotate your object around, you'll be able to kind of see little bumps like that. Now, I'm going to switch that viewport off for a second and switch the renderer back to default quality just here, because I don't want to get a performance hit while I'm recording this. It might slow my computer down having it set up on that high quality mode. Okay, so I'll just go back down and select my shader again. Now, the next setting that we're going to do is reflectivity. Now, once again, this is going to be another ramp and another facing ratio node. So let's go down to the work area in our Hypershade, and I'm going to select basically the sampler info node that I had before, and this place 2D node, which is connected to the ramp, and the ramp. So I need to hold down Shift and just click each of those nodes. Now make sure that this place 2D texture is the one that's connected to your ramp with the sampler info node. Alright, it shouldn't be the one that's connected to your bump map or your normal map, which you can see here. So leave this one alone, it's this one that you need. Okay, so it's those three nodes there. I'm going to go to Edit, Duplicate, Shading Network. Okay, now you'll see over here what it's done is it's taken those three nodes and it's kind of squashed two on top of one another. But basically what it's done is taken the three nodes I selected and it's duplicated them, but it's kept them all connected. Okay, now that's important. If you just go Edit, Duplicate without network, it'll give you duplicates of the nodes, but it won't connect them together like this. All right. So just make sure that you duplicate with network. Okay. So what we're going to do here is basically change this ramp. Okay, and then we'll plug this back into the plastic. So the ramp changes if you just double click your ramp too. Okay. What we need to do here is first of all take the middle color, this medium gray, and just sort of bring it back up to maybe just below halfway. Okay, about here roughly. Now the bottom color, if I click on the little selection circle for that, the bottom color, basically I'm going to keep that gray and I'm going to move it to about roughly 2/3 of the way up. It's going to be about here roughly. Okay. The next color up, the middle one, all right, that's going to be almost black. So that's going to be about here. Like that. And then the final one, right at the top, is going to be just a fraction darker than this one. So I'm going to select that one and bring that down. So that's going to be in there. So these two are almost the same color. If I select that one, you can see that the slider just jumps a little bit, like that. Okay, so they're going to be roughly about that color range. Now, the node at the top here, this color at the top, this swatch needs to come down just slightly. Okay, so this is going to be plugged into the reflectivity value. So that's how reflective the plastic is. So in a similar way to the transparency, where we've got the transparency, like a very high transparency for the facing polygons, and the transparency reduces as the polygons curve away from the camera direction. What we want is a similar effect happening with the amount of reflection. So basically when we're looking directly at the plastic, it's going to be slightly less reflective, and as the surface curves away from the camera around the model, it's going to become very reflective, and that's what this color is here. So this is sort of the polygons, once again, as with last time, the top of the swatch for the ramp is basically where polygons are facing directly at the camera, and the bottom of the swatch is where they're facing at 90 degrees to the camera. So they're basically side on to the camera. We're going to basically have the reflection value change as the bottle curves, the surface of the bottle curves. So what we need to do is drag this once again onto plastic, onto the plastic shader, and what we'll do is connect it to the reflectivity value. So you can middle mouse drag it like this, and select, now in this case it doesn't show up in this list, so what we would have to do is hit other, and the same thing goes more or less for if you right click and select out color, or sorry, out alpha, and you then connect it to the input. What you need to do there is connect it to, let's see if reflectivity is in this list. No, it's not. So you'd have to connect it to other there as well. All right. So whichever method you're using, I tend to just use middle mouse click because it's a bit easier, but use your right mouse button on the input output arrows if your mouse isn't set up correctly. I'm going to go down to other, and that'll pop up my connection editor list. So what I want is the out alpha value. So because it's just a black and white ramp, it's going to just use basically black and white. So I'll select that, and then I'll scroll down here on the input list for the plastic shader, and I need to find reflectivity, and it's down near the bottom. Okay, there's the very bottom of the list, and it's not MI reflectivity, it's reflectivity just here. Okay, with a small r at the start. So what we do is select those, and you can see now we've got this connection that's jumped. If you hover your mouse over that connection, you'll see a little tooltip pop up that says, in this case it says ramp2.out alpha is connected to plastic shader.reflectivity. So that's telling you where the connection is going to and from. So once you've got those selected, just hit close, and that's basically put in the reflection levels. But at the moment, there's nothing actually reflecting in that plastic. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm just going to clean this graph up by just hitting the rearrange button like that, and then just putting my cursor down here and pressing A just to zoom out. All right, so I'm going to double click the plastic node just to get the attribute panel open again if it's closed. And what I want to do now is I want to add something for the bottle to reflect. And sort of what will happen is basically the plastic on the bottle will actually reflect any other objects in the scene. And it will also by default reflect light sources, so you get like these little highlights of reflected light, which is cool. But what I want to do is kind of add a little bit more detail into that reflection. So what I'm going to do is create basically an environment ball that kind of wraps around the entire scene, and I can stick an image to that. And although you won't see the environment ball here, the material will think that there's a picture wrapped around the entire environment, and it will then reflect that that environment picture. So I'm going to come across the attribute editor, and I'm going to go to reflected color down here under specular shading, and I'm going to select the input button, and that'll pop up my create render node list. Now what I want to do is select an environment ball, which is just down here. Note that I've got these these categories selected just here, and that's the default categories that are selected, so you should be able to just scroll down and find environment ball. So we just select it like that, and you'll notice down here it's added that in just there. So that's, once again, that's got a place 3D texture node, and it's also got an environment ball node down here. In the attributes, what we want to do is go to image, and we want to load an image in. So I'll just click on that. Now, because it's an image I'm adding, I want it to be a file node, like that. So that's the file node added. And next to image name, we go to the yellow folder, click on that, and it'll take us to source images. So this is where these new pictures come into play that I've got. Now I'll give you guys a copy of these pictures, and you can experiment with using different different images to kind of see the different results you can get. I'm just going to use one of these. Now these images were just ones that I got online, basically. If you do a search for HDRI backgrounds, you can basically find a whole heap of different pictures that are sort of similar to this. So what these pictures do is they simulate lighting inside a studio, and that will then pick up as reflections on the bottle. So you can try different ones. I'm just going to try this one here. But as I said, you know, you can just try different ones and see how they go. You might start to see some of that reflected in your shader thumbnail potentially, just here. Okay, so that's really all we need to do. Now, really quickly, what I might do is a quick test render just to see what the plastic is looking like at the moment. So what I'm going to do is pop up to the render display or display render settings button just here at the top, and I'm going to set the render using to Maya. Render using Mental Ray. Okay, from the list, and that'll add in some extra tabs. Now, if I scroll down here for a second, I'm just going to change the preset picture size to HD 720. That's not what we're going to use, but I'll just use that for now. And I'll pop across to quality. Now, sometimes when you click this, it takes a minute to load. There it goes. And I'm just going to set this to production, at the quality presets. I think that should give me enough. Alright, so I'm going to do just a very quick test render. All I do for that is I press this clapperboard button just up here. You can also press this little blue button to see sort of how close or so far away you are from the object. Basically, this is the size of the picture it's going to make. This is the ratio of the picture it's going to make. But obviously it's going to be 1280 by 720 pixels wide. So I'm just going to pause the video and I'll do this quick test render by pressing the render current frame button here, and we'll take a look at the test render in a second. Okay, there we go. Now this picture here is smaller than it normally would be because I've got in this render view I've got the options test resolution set to 50, so it's only actually coming out half the size. But you can see there in this render we've got the bump maps in there working okay, and we've also got the sort of transparency working and so on, so it's giving us this sort of clear plastic bottle look. So at the moment that's sort of pretty reasonable. Now you're going to get a different look if you change the reflection color image that we use. So what I'm going to do is just change that image. So I'm just going to go back through the inputs for the reflection image back into here, and I'm going to try a different image, and we'll see what happens if we change that image. We'll see if there's any visible change. I would generally expect there would be, but it may not necessarily show up here in the test render because we don't have any lights and other things set up yet. So I'll just do another test render and we'll see if there is any difference that shows up. There may or may not be, as I said. It'll probably become more relevant later on in the process. Yeah, there's a bit of a change there. So this is the first image, and then this is the second image. So you can see up here that there's this, the first image was a little bit more subtle, okay, whereas this one gives us sort of a much kind of brighter sort of outer edge on the bottle, like that. So you can see you can change the the finished product can be quite different depending on just a single image that you place. So you know, your texture images are really, really important to the overall finished look of your bottle. And clearly this isn't finished yet. We've still got quite a bit to do. So I'm going to leave this video here. For the most part, that's pretty much the plastic done. There's not really anything else that we need to do with the plastic. But we'll need to add, obviously, the label. We'll need to add the cap plastic as well. And all of those are quite a bit more simple than the bottle. The bottle, as I said before, was the most complicated part of the project. You can see there now, if you set your renderer to viewport 2.0, it will actually show up the reflection image plus the bump map plus the transparency. But it doesn't take into account brightness levels per se. So what it's doing is blowing the reflectivity color out. It doesn't take the amount of reflection into account. It just shows the reflection image as though it was at 100%. So that's why it's kind of gone really, really bright like that. But you can kind of see where the image is reflecting like that. So so it's sort of coming along. All right, so I'll end this video here, and in the next video we'll start to look at the label and the cap as well. So I'll see you then.